Ralph Prioleau is a local law clerk who wants to bring his law experience to the boardroom, where he wants to be the next board member for the Berkeley County School Board. I talk one-on-one with Ralph for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Ralph Prioleau, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me, Quintin. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I understand that obviously you are a law clerk that is, for Judge Howell in Berkeley County.
Yes, sir.
And beyond that, who else is Ralph Prioleau?
Ralph Prioleau, as far as myself, I'm born and raised in the St. Stephen community. I'm a Berkeley County product. I went to all the feeder schools, J.K. Goodine Elementary, St. Stephen Middle, Timlin High School. I graduated in 2009. I have a BA in political science from USC Aiken, and then I have a Juris Doctorate degree from Charleston School of Law. And after I got the Juris Doctorate degree, I went to a Nastapula law firm for a couple of months in the office of Ashley Fawcett. And then August of 2018, I've been a law clerk for the Honorable Cynthia Graham Howell, who's the Master and Equity Judge in Horry County.
Yes, and I love Constance Nastapula. She's a great lady.
Mm-hmm.
Let me turn to you, because obviously you are a candidate for Berkeley County Schools Board, obviously District 7. Mm-hmm. And let me ask you this. Besides, obviously, your law experience, what actually qualifies you for the Berkeley County School Board?
Well, when I think about the Berkeley County School District number 7, District number 7 is probably the most diverse district in the county. And I say that because you have a mixture of the upper Berkeley County, and then you have some of the lower Berkeley County. And that upper Berkeley County is where I'm from. I'm from the St. Stephen, and that stretches the St. Stephen, the Cross community. Lower Berkeley, you're talking about that Cane Bay community, that big suburban area that's probably maybe a little over 10 years old. So when you think about the qualifications, where I bring to the table is that I think I bring a much more balanced approach. I bring a platform where I am looking out for all communities involved, not one particular community, such as some of my opponents. I'm looking out for everybody, because I know that when you have diversity, you want to have many different issues. And since I know we have that issue for District 7, the county as a whole is very diverse. Just seeing the growth, Berkeley County is the fastest growing county in the state right now. So we have a lot of work to do to catch up with that growth, because we are growing more and becoming overpopulated in schools, bus drivers, overcrowding of buses. We have the rural schools like JK, possible of closure. We need to bring back vocational training. So what I bring to the table, I believe I bring a much more balanced approach. I think I'm going to bring my legal experience, because a lot of people don't realize a school board member, you're going to read a lot of legal documents. That's why, the school district hires a attorney of record. I think for Berkeley County, that is Josh Whitley right now. And if you look at it, I mean, the three primary functions for the school board is, number one, to hire a superintendent and monitor his performance. Number two, create a physical budget for the school district. And then you're supposed to implement policies and procedures for the school district to adhere to, and keep in mind, stay in regulation with your state statutes. So a lot of what the school board member does is practically legal work.
And what in your mind makes a school board very effective?
To me, an effective school board, for me, it's many things. If I can probably narrow it all down, number one, you got to be an effective advocate. I believe that I'm gonna use a legal term in the rules of professional responsibility. We use the term advocate zealously. And when you think about advocating zealously, you're supposed to be advocating advantageous to your client, for your client. Well, if you think about a school board member, you're advocating based on your district, your particular district where you have a residence at, and you have to advocate for those constituents. Now in District 7, right now there are 19,000 registered voters. So that I will be responsible for those 19,000. To me, I would have to go out, which I'm already doing. I want to plan community meetings with all the local communities, such as the Pineville, the St. Stephen, the Cross, the Pringletown, the Cane Bay. I want them to see me. What I want to do is I want to plan quarterly meetings with those individuals. Whoever comes. I know sometimes we make excuses as why we can't come, but if your community is your school, at the end of the day, I'm only advocating for what the people want. So to me, you got to advocate zealously. Number two, you need to be an effective listener. I think sometimes elected officials, or to people use the term loosely, politicians, we talk too much and we don't sit down and listen to what the people want, because sometimes the people are very clear what they want. So you have to be an effective listener. And I think the last thing, you have to be, I guess, a type of person that can, that knows how to make the connection in order to get things done. I think you need to be connected with that community beyond the boardroom. I think many times, and one of my opponents is running on this, that they need to win the seat in order to gain the connections with local officials, state officials, federal officials, whatever have you. I don't agree with that theory. To me, as a candidate, you got to make those connections now, because let's say, for example, Quintin, you come to me with an issue, and your issue could be, small to me, but large to you. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to be the type of board member or elected official that says, well, I'll see what I can do. And then 6 months later, you don't hear from me until you might see me in the store one day, and I got to make up a lie to try and, say that I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I want to be the type of official that make those connections with everybody. And that way, when something needs to be done, I can get on the phone. So what I've done in my campaign, I've made connections with Berkeley County Democratic Party. I made connections with the Jamie Harrison camp. I made connections with local town mayors, because I want them to know who I even went out and spoke with principals of schools in my district. So that way, when I win, we already done establish a working relationship. You know me and I know you. So it's not like I win in November and then all of a sudden I'm just here. No, I've been talking to you since August. I've been talking to you since I announced. So now you know what I'm about. You know what I plan to do.
What is the biggest difference between August and right now when you think of your campaign?
August, when I announced in August, how should I put it? It was kind of like a free for all. August, you really got the big picture, and you just talking to everybody. You really just talking to any and everybody you can, because right now you're trying to gain support. You're trying to make connections with certain people, and then number three, you got to worry about donations and campaign funds. It's so much. But now in October, you kind of made those connections. So now you're kind of just honing in on what is the final touches. For me, interviews. I've done Facebook Live conversations, so people have an opportunity to ask questions. To me, I done made those connections. Now it's time to say, okay, you don't see me in the street. Now you want to see the platform. What am I running on? In these last 30 days, what am I running on? Why am I income? What makes me, I shouldn't say greater, but what makes me more valuable than my opponent? What do you see a vision? Did I put a vision out there for you that makes you think when you go to the polls, or when you in your ballot box, that, oh yeah, I can dig with Prioleau's vision, so much so rather than my opponents. I want to be able in October to lay the vision out even more plainer than I did in August. So that way, when you go to the ballot box, you have no I should say, what's the word? You have no, uh, now and my thoughts are losing me right now, but you would have no doubt that you are making the right choice by choosing me.
And let me ask you this. How will you engage with the constituents of District 7?
When you say engage, are you mean from August to now, or are you talking about
Or beyond?
after?
Yes, sir.
For me, I took the time in this campaign to learn. One thing that I did, there's a phrase, and Quentin, you probably heard this many times, and especially as a black man, and they like to say, you don't see elected officials until November. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of change that narrative. The narrative that I wanted to play was, you could see us beyond November and even before November. So what I did, I planned a community forum.
Okay.
I held it at JK in September 27th.
Right.
And I brought not only current elected officials, but I brought candidates. I had Representative Caldwell Pinckney, who Mount Scorner, Berkeley County Council. I brought Representative Joseph Jefferson, House District 102.
Right.
I brought candidate Benjamin Polk, who running for solicitor.
Right.
So I brought those people to show them that, hey, once the connection is made, we can call these guys anytime. In fact, that connection was made so good at JK, I just found out that one of the interviews that I did before yours, her name is Candace Pringle.
Right.
She just lined up Benjamin Polk for next week. So those connections are made when you do things, when you plan things for the community. For my community, those things are not planned too often, if not any. I think someone told me that this is the first time we ever seen a form like that, where it was so much information given. In fact, it really was too much for 2 hours. So I think for me, engaging the voter is giving them something to look forward to, other than a newsletter or update, or give them something where they can see we're working. I think voters today want to see their elected officials work. They want to see them in the community. That means going to some of those football games, going to some of those band concerts, going to the local things in the community. KMB is hosting an oyster roast October 24th. I'm going to be there because that's something that I can do to be in the community, to show people, hey, I'm not just from St. Stephen and just want to get your vote. I want to be involved in your community in the everyday aspect, so that way you see me, and not only you seeing me, but you're learning me and I'm learning you.
And let me ask you this, Mr. Prioleau. What are the top 3 schools in District 7?
Ooh, when you say the top 3, you talking about academics?
Yes, sir.
Ooh, I would have to really dive in and look at the state report card, but if I could imagine it for District 7, and we got at least 15, 17 schools, it would have to be in that King Bay community.
Okay.
It's not the rural area.
And what, in your mind, are the 3 underperforming schools in District 7?
Say again?
Yeah, what are the 3 underperforming schools in District 7?
Well, Quentin, I'm going to answer that question like this.
Okay.
A lot of time the underperforming schools are in the rural community.
Okay.
I think sometimes that's a misconception, because I think there's a whole lot of factors that go into play as to why some of the schools maybe in the rural community are underperforming rather than in the suburban area. A lot of times, you have to look at equitable funding. The programs that is over here is not over there. Prime example. I just talked with a teacher the other day. They told me that child in the rural community, there was a welding program at one of the local high schools. Well, they have no teacher now. So now that child has to go to another high school just for that class. Then they have to bring that child back to the local high school to finish out the rest of the day. Well, when you think about that now, if you just go into one school for a class, you spending more time on the bus than in class. I mean, that's what you have to do at that time. But when you think about that, that's not equitable funding across the board. Prime example, KMB. KMB has a lot of specialized or programs, pre-law, pre-finance. You know, they have, I know Berkeley and Goose Creek, I think KMB does have it too. Heritage Trust,
Right.
credit union. People can go inside that. So those kids are getting a education that is not the same at the rural schools. So I think before I say underperform, I think we also have to realize that people, well, some people don't understand that, you know, the same opportunities that is presented here is not presented over there.
Let me ask you this: where is the equitable funding for District 7?
The equitable funding for District 7 is in the eyes of the school board. We have to, and I'm gonna say like that. I'm gonna say we because I'm going the lines of winning this election. We have to realize that we have to have a board that realizes that we have a problem. That's the first thing. Once we realize we have a problem, then we got to have a board that say, okay, how are we going to fix it? Why is it that this school got this or all these things, and then we got schools on the upper, well, and I'm supposed to say it, upper Berkeley, that don't have these programs? How can we stretch this across the board? The budget is there. Now they're going to tell you that the population is not there. That's what they're going to say. Well, what I'm saying is this: we have to find other avenues. That's where my platform comes in, bringing in vocational training. You know, the old high school, in my father's time, and maybe in your parents' time as well, they had brick mason. You know, they had electrician, they had welding. They had things to give kids job skills. Now we realize that I can't expect a school in Upper Berkeley to have the same thing as KMB. That's not. I don't even think that's realistic, because we know when you compare the population, KMB got 2,500 students. Well, this high school over here might end up with 600. So the demand is higher, and everybody knows in business, you know, when the supply is high, the demand is high. You know, so I think we have to look at it that in a way of saying that when we think about equitable funding, not only in programs, but I think we need to get back to vocational training to order to alleviate some of that equitable funding. We need to put more dollars into the upper Berkeley schools or the rural schools, but we know we have to put it in different ways.
What ways are you talking, and what particular schools are there in the rural areas?
When the ways that I'm talking about, I mean, really only two high schools in upper Berkeley, and both is in District 7. That's Timberland,
right,
and Cross. So I went to Timberland. I'm a graduate of Timberland. So we know Timberland has a welding program. Cross has a welding program. Timberland has a teacher. Cross doesn't. I mean, that's just the way it is. So when we think about, and I want to make sure I catch your second question. Now you asked about the.
Oh yeah, what are those particular rural schools that you're referring to that need these actual programs right now?
Oh well, I definitely say definitely Timberland and Cross. They need these programs more than anything, because, and I'm gonna say like this.
Okay.
And I don't have the exact numbers, but is a proven fact. We know that 100% of graduates that graduate, especially in the rural area, does not go to college. That I think that's a known fact. It might be a good percentage, but it's not 100%. Now, if this was at 100%, then we talking a different conversation altogether. So the thing that I'm looking at is this: in the rural area, we know that there's more crime. We know that the poverty line is much greater in the rural area than maybe in the likes of Cane Bay or Mount Scorner or whatever have you. So when I think about bringing things to those high schools, not only bringing things like pre-finance or pre-law like Cane Bay, because Timberland has started an early college high school program. So what we're going to, I know that program is on the ground, And I have a daughter in that program. She taken 5 due credit courses this year with Trident Tech. We have to bring that program. We're going to have to build that program up, but we're going to have to look for some programs across high school too. I would love to see a partnership done with Trident Tech. Trident Tech offers over 70 free tuition free programs. I would love to see some of those programs come to the local high schools, because at the end of the day, children who leave high school with no plan, I think is a failure. And I'm not saying they are a failure, but I'm thinking we failed. The system has failed them, because we got to give them something to look forward to. And if you look at most kids who leave high school, especially if they don't go to college or don't go in the military, they have no job skills. So now, if you don't have job skills, you definitely on the bottom of the totem pole, and you can't get a job, because in like every application, it always says, "What experience do you have?" I got none. So how do you expect to get hired? That is where we bring those programs in, those tuition-free programs, those vocational training. So that way, when these kids leave high school, they have the job skills if they choose to. It's all about giving options. They have the job skills to just simply go out, gain certification, gain licenses. That way, when they go into the workforce, not only can they put, I went to Timberland High School, Cross High School, I graduated from here, but also I have these certification, I have the license, and I promise you, you will see the poverty line decrease in the rural area, because now we got children in the workforce.
As a matter of fact, let me ask you this, Ralph. What is the graduation rate at Goose Creek High School?
Well, I will tell you that Goose Creek is not in my district. That's not District 7. I couldn't tell you that without going into some hard numbers on the county, maybe on the county website. But I really don't know the answer to that question right now.
Okay, what's the poverty index for 2017-2018 semester for Timberland?
The poverty index, I don't know the exact number, but I would tell you that when you look at Timberland High School per se, and that's a community school, I have a lot of family that goes there. I know their living conditions, and I know it's not all great. And I live in this community my whole life, so I know that Black folk take pride in what they do, and how they live. But I know we are not in the same atmosphere as in the other communities, especially the lower end of Berkeley County.
Well, let me ask you this too. What percentage of students at Timberland High School have scored a C or higher on the algebra, biology, or English gateway courses assessments for the end of course for 2017-2018?
Well, Quintin, you didn't give me no time to research on this stuff. I don't know the answer to that question for the end of course assessment. I definitely would have to dive in, like I said again, to research those numbers and see where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's the average years of experience for the teacher at Timberland High School?
Teachers are interchangeable at Timberland. We see new teachers every year. It's much different than when I went to high school. We had a lot of older teachers. Some of the teachers are left the scene, retired, so the teachers are much younger now. But I mean, it wouldn't be I know the years of experience wouldn't be 20 years or 25 years. It'd definitely be lower. A lot of younger teachers come into the rural community to teach and gain experience and whatnot, because that's some of their first jobs. So it's younger.
And you might not know this, but let me ask you this. How many students at St. Stephen Elementary are meeting or exceeding the MAP percentage in math or reading?
Quentin, again, I would tell you that I have not dived into those numbers. Just haven't dived into those numbers yet. I would have to take greater research to do all of those numbers.
Okay.
A lot of them stuff not even readily available to us. We have to dive in and look.
And I know earlier you talked about rural schools. How many students in District 7 still don't have broadband access, Ralph?
Now that number is not known. I would tell you that home telephone has tried to do they try their best to give internet to the rural communities. Some of the like my area, I have home telephone.
Right.
And sometimes it stretches. Some in Pineville, some across the county has issued hotspots
Right.
to some students that could, but even then, we know it's still a issue. I tell a personal story. I was talking to a principal in a meeting, and they were telling me that they had kids that had to come back to school because they had no internet. So, because that is the case, I realized that we have a whole lot more kids, but probably in the once again the rural area that don't have access not only to internet but broadband internet, because you can have dial-up, but we all know how that goes. We talking about broadband, and just to piggyback on my daughter, she's a blended learner. So if you don't have broadband, there's no way you can do live stream. They live streaming in the classrooms and whatnot. So there are some issues there, but I'm glad that the state house passed that measure to try to give access to hotspots and more broadband access, putting more money back in the rural community. And I hope that later on down the road, we can even see some local tax contributions go towards that effort.
And you talk about the state house. Should the state actually make internet a utility?
Whew. That's a tough one, Quintin. I really don't have an answer for that. I would, if I really had to choose. I don't think so. Because the question is going to be, how is it going to be paid for? We know a lot of time, if you look at a lot of these programs, especially even in the school, schools, districts will partner with certain companies and bring programs to their local school. And then after a certain amount of years, that school district, that particular school is on their own to keep that program going. I don't think it would be feasible for the state to take control of that area, because I don't know if they could even. That's a wide budget to try to tackle that for now to for the foreseeable future.
And let me ask you this too, Ralph. What exactly are the complexities of education for District 7?
Well, number one, we have bus overcrowding. That may not be a big issue right now, and this one of the reasons is because a lot of students have not gone back to school. But if you look at them, to tell you another personal story that I know, Timberland Lot is responsible for St. Stephen Elementary, Bonner, JK, Macedonia Middle, St. Stephen Middle. Well, they only have 10 drivers. So they're fine now because, prime example, JK, at the start of the year, they only brought back 11 students. I think they picked up a few more. I think they may be up to 17 to 20. St. Stephen Middle only had 30. St. Stephen Elementary only brought back 30. So you're fine now. But the question would be, if the pandemic never hit, we was talking about a child sometime being on the bus an hour and a half because of the capacity of the bus was overcrowded. So when we look at that, we know that's a complexity that has to be resolved. We're going to have to employ more drivers. We're going to have to retain their services. One of my plans that I would like to see their minimum wage increase. Right now, currently, they're right at about $15 an hour, $15.30 an hour. I would like to see that increase to 18 to 20. I would like to see signing bonuses. I would like to see loyalty bonuses as well for being there for so many years, 5, 10, whatever have you. Another complexity that I see, the K&B community, overcrowding. They have a big overcrowding issue in that community. Prime example, the middle school. The middle school was built to house roughly a little over 900 head of students. Well, currently they have 1,400. They had to brought in trailers and whatever have you to house those students. So now then the question lie is they're going and let me say is that the county has started to erect a new wing that would help bring in those house those the rest of those students. But this the kicker. Cane Bay, if you ever been out there, Cane Bay is building houses all on Black Tom Road and State Road, which means you're going to have even more children coming in to that area. So really and truthfully, that wing, in my estimation, it will be only a temporary fix. I think another issue, we're going to have to enrollment issues in the rural area. JK has roughly 100 students total. That school can hold 6,800 head of students. So they're not using half the building, basically. Every grade level only needs one teacher. I have a son who's in 4th grade there at JK. Currently, they only have 4 people in the class, or 6 people in the class. So, and there would have been a little bit more with the pandemic, but that's how much they have now. We're going to have to find enrollment. We're going to have to find ways to increase enrollment in that community, at that particular school. Maybe change the curriculum, make it a STEAM program, a STEM program, maybe even a Magnus program. Whatever we need to do. Another issue, I think I stated this before, is increasing the learning opportunities. Getting that equitable funding across the board in District 7, because like I said, we do have a disparity between one community to the other. We need to bring back some of those things to the rural community, such as vocational training. We need to bring back those things. We need to provide programs, partner with Trident Tech. We need to partner with local businesses to try and bring those things back to the rural community and to alleviate some of those complexities. But those complexities are not just in District 7. Those complexities are in the county as a whole.
And I forgot to ask you this earlier, but how transparent is the Berkeley County School Board, Ralph?
In my opinion, and I want this to be very clear, in my opinion, the Berkeley County School Board has a trust issue, a lack of trust between teachers and school board. Between community and school board, you can take both interchangeably. If you look at the news recently, I think you saw a petition was sent out for Berkeley County because teachers stress teaching both things at the same virtual and face-to-face at the same simultaneously. So we got that issue. We got the issue of teacher pay raises. It was also brought in the news that a letter was sent to teachers basically telling them how to conduct themselves over social media. And it was also stated that the county told teachers not to call school board members, but to bring their concerns to local principals. So when we think about that transparency, there is a problem. But I also think the problem lies with some of the members on the school board. I think we have to realize, and I stated this we had a forum Tuesday night, that one thing I think we have to do is recognize the fact that this is an elected position, but this is a nonpartisan position. Right. And we all know what nonpartisan means. You're not voted in based on party lines. Well, I think sometimes with some of the members of the school board, they make decisions based on party lines. And until we get that aspect out of the school board, you're going to keep having those transparency, those lack of trust issues. We need to realize that as a school board member, just because I identify with something, I got to realize that I'm here to serve all. I'm in public service for all people, not just Democrats, not just Republicans or Green Party, however you identify. You are here to serve your particular district. Whoever lives in that district, you are a public servant to them. You sign up for this. And I think we need to get back to that take party issues out the way.
Ralph Prioleau, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.